Hello, everyone. Today we are talking about the journey of being a digital nomad. My journey specifically. I have my friend Margo here. You guys have met Margo before. And Margo is going to ask me some questions. Hey there, Sandra. Hey, everyone. So Margo's going to ask me some questions to hopefully get what's in my head out to people so that the information will be helpful. So I'm actually super nervous.
I don't know why you're nervous.
I don't know why either. I'm super nervous. But so I got your questions. I know some of you responded back to the email with questions that you have in regards to starting an online business and that type of thing. So I do have your questions here. If you have any questions, hey there, Marcus. If you have any questions, just go ahead and chat them in the chat box. And after we're done here, I'll stay on here as long as you have questions to see how you can kind of get your personal plan together. Now, I know that sometimes in the comments, people are communicating with each other. So if you have a specific question, just go ahead and put like the letter Q beside it so that when I am going to the questions, I'll know that's a question versus just normal conversation with someone else in chat. That'll be helpful. So, okay.
All right.
Okay.
You don't have to be nervous.
Okay.
It's your story, so you already know all the answers. Hey, everybody. I'll reintroduce myself. My name is Margo Gabriel. I'm a freelance writer from Boston. And today we're just going to learn a little bit more about Cinnamon and her journey as a digital nomad. And, you know, many of you have followed her for some time, and you've gotten, you know, bits and pieces of her journey. But today we're really going to dig deep into entrepreneurship, you know, reasons she's had to pivot, and really some of the solid skill sets that she's had to develop throughout her career to be able to live, you know, a location independent lifestyle that many people are now considering now that a lot of us are working from home. So to begin, if you could tell us a little bit about your, you know, how'd you find your way into entrepreneurship, Cinnamon?
How did I find my way into entrepreneurship? Okay, so I graduated college. I went to college at Greencastle, Indiana, DePaul University, and I didn't know what I was going to do afterwards. So I took a job with a real estate, a leasing company, and I hated it, and I quit after 6 months. I had nothing lined up. I was just young and dumb, and I just quit and had no idea. I don't even know how I survived for those 6 months because I had an apartment and bills and everything. So I really don't even know what happened. But I started, so I created a company and I worked with at-risk youth, adjudicated youth, and special needs students. That was my first company, and I started that probably I think I was like 21. Okay. And I did really well at that, so well that they kept giving me more people. And so my company expanded. And so my accountant at the time told me to incorporate because it would, thank you, honey. It would save me in taxes. And I didn't really know what that meant. I just did what he told me to. And then I think the first book I read was like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where it was talking about businesses and that type of thing. And then I just read everything I could on business. And I think that's kind of where it started.
Interesting. Okay. So you start this job, you hate it. 6 months later, you quit. What do you feel like some of the skills that you developed early on that you're still using today?
Well, I first I have to put a caveat is the first business I started did very well from the beginning, which in hindsight, I think can be a detriment. So when you start a business, particularly when you're young and it's successful, you assume, well, I assumed that success was just like ongoing, like it just stayed that way, not that like something can happen and then your business can be in the red, you know? So business was great. I expanded to other areas. I, you know, took some government contracts. Many of you know I'm from Washington, D.C. So I took some government contracts. I expanded because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. I worked my tail off. Then I expanded into investment real estate and trading, which many of you know I day trade. So I stayed in those lanes, and then the recession of 2008, 2009 happened, and I got my ass handed to me, and a lot of my businesses just crashed, and I liquidated my brokerage account to attempt to save real estate that honestly I just should have let go. I had several investment properties at the time. I was still super, super young, and just didn't know. And then I lost everything. And I had really hustled and grind for years, just trying to make a lot of money because I thought that is what happiness was. And so I sacrificed time with family, friends, travel, everything so I could just hustle and grind. And then when the recession happened, I was like, I lost everything and didn't really have anything to show for. And so I went through a massive depression. I feel like it was 3 years. I never did the math to see how long it really was, but I just couldn't focus because I measured my worth based on how much money I made. So when I wasn't making money, I really internalized failure. And I think from that, and I'm not just going to say it was an easy turnaround because it wasn't. Like it was hours, days in the bed, not being able to get out of bed, just really just not being able to deal with myself. And then and it was like a bipolar moment. Like 1 minute I'm like, okay, you got to send some emails and be productive. And the next minute I can't get out of bed. Like I was a mess. And then it finally got to the point where I got over myself and was like, okay, I got to reevaluate. What I do know is last time when I attempted to hustle the way that I knew how, I didn't get to travel. I didn't get to have this great life. I was working all the time, even though it was for myself. I was working all the time. So I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And then it was in the midst of the 2008-2000 recession where I had to make that transition. So it was like, okay, look, regardless of what the economy is going to do, companies are always going to want more customers, period. Always, no matter what the economy is doing. And so if I learn how to get businesses more customers, I'll always be valuable. And understand, fun fact, I didn't know how to do that at the time. I didn't know anything about marketing. I didn't go to school for marketing. I just knew I had to learn it. You know what I mean? So I say all that to say, for as we get into the Q&A toward the end of this, is that sometimes you got to learn a new skill, and that's okay if it's going to give you the life that you want. And so I had to learn a new skill. I went into digital marketing because I knew everything was going to be online. And so that was kind of where it started. And I think I started with getting Google certified. So it's important to know that most of Google's stuff, all the education and the process of getting certified is free. All of their exams are free. If you want to be a specialist in Google Analytics or Google AdWords or anything that Google does, all of their education is online under Google and free. So if you're in a situation like I was, where I had to start off all over and didn't have any money, you got plenty of time, and I had internet, you know what I mean? So I just studied at the basic level what Google provided. And then you can get certified with Google for free. So I got my certifications with Google, and I continue to keep that up. So then when it was time to kind of look for a different avenue, I could say I was Google certified. And that's kind of where it started. And I don't think I remember your question.
So basically I asked, are there any skill sets that you learned early on at the start of your entrepreneurial journey that you still employ today? It sounds like, you were very resourceful in just realizing, hey, I need to learn a new skill.
Yeah, I think the skills that I acquired, of course, the trading, thank God I always learned how to do that. But one of the things, even for trading, if you're emotional, someone dies, you're going through a divorce, like everyone would tell you, get out of the market because you would just go in there and do some foolishness. You know what I mean? So even during the time of like my depression, I did not trade at all. Well, one, I had liquidated my account, so I couldn't. But at any rate, I think just being resourceful enough when you're healthy enough, because it's not like all hell broke loose and I immediately was like, yeah, let's just go learn a new skill. No,
right.
But when you're healthy enough that you can kind of reevaluate the different move you need to make, I did that. And just stuck in that lane. So I think, and obviously because I know how Google works, it helps me with my clients in digital marketing. And it also helps me hire people when I need to hire people for different projects in marketing.
Awesome. Thank you. So you mentioned that, there was a time where you pretty much lost everything. You realized, hey, I need to learn a new skill. And so you dive into digital marketing. Were you nervous? Were you sort of like, having any doubts about whether or not this would work?
I think at some point, like when you lose everything, nervousness is, I think it's out the window. I think you jump back into survival. And I think for many of us who didn't come from anything, and I'm born and raised DC, in the 80s. So survival is just kind of what you did. So after, again, I get over myself and then, you move forward.
Awesome. So my next question is about, systems. Like, yes, everyone can have the title of being an entrepreneur, but, there's a lot of behind the scenes work that oftentimes people don't see. So if you could tell us, what are the systems that you had to put in place, whether that was technology or just like a process to run your business?
Okay, so this is probably really super important right now for a lot of entrepreneurs at the basic level. And I didn't notice at the time. I can say this now knowing. At the basic level, you need an email marketing software, even if you don't have a website. Because I think if someone would have told me early on in my entrepreneur career that it's important to build the audience first, it would have saved me a lot of time. So if you're someone and you're searching for, you keep hearing that, oh, people are making money in drop shipping, people are making money in the market, people are making money, online courses. All of that boils down to, if there's not an audience, you will not make any money. Once you build the audience, you can sell them whatever the hell you want, but you have to build the audience first. And that ultimately comes through content. You have to create content in your niche that is relevant to the people you want to serve. So many of you have seen kind of my transition with, me moving abroad, but I created an audience based on me being the demographic. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I was moving to another country, and I kind of documented my process. But I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I'm in digital marketing. So moving to Portugal was just one of my goals. I achieved it. I'm still, have to move on with life. And so in that process, I want to help business owners kind of understand that there's definitely some software you want to employ to make your life substantially easier. And particularly if you're a solo entrepreneur or you're an entrepreneur where you have contractors, because ultimately your audience is going to be the most important thing. And you have to be able to communicate with them. So for example, many of you are on my list that are on here now. I sent you an email, tell you I was going to go live. So if you can send an email to the people you want to serve immediately, that's a big deal. And it's something you own. If you are building your platform and your audience on your Instagrams and your Facebooks and all those other things, they own that. They can get rid of you. They can shadow ban you. They can do a whole bunch of things. And then you won't have access to speak to this audience that you created. Because I want you to understand, even though we're on this platform right here, YouTube is a content platform. Everything revolves around content. Content is currency. YouTube makes millions, if not billions of dollars because they're owned by Google. And they are able to stay in business because people create content so that YouTube can sell ads on the content. Some of the largest tech companies that exist because people are creating content on them. So when you think about it as a business owner, you need to really understand how you need to create content specifically for your business. If you are selling things on Shopify and you have dresses, put models in it, have them walk, show, create content for your business, because ultimately content is going to be your 24 hours, 7 days a week salesperson. And if you are a small business, you need that. The more you put out there into the cybersphere, the more opportunity you have for people to find you. And this is in any industry that you're in, but you just have to make sure you're doing content in the right platforms for the ultimate audience that you want to get to, if that makes sense. Did I answer your question?
You did. Okay. No, you did. No, because I was thinking about just what people are really interested in, right now, especially with everyone working from home and, individuals trying to figure out what their next step is. and really creating a location independent lifestyle. So that was really, really helpful.
Okay, so can I add to that? At the basic level, you need an email marketing software. And if you are not tech set, you do need a website, but if you were just starting off, I don't want people to get caught up on the website. I have people now who like my website and done, I don't care, but people just won't move forward because they feel like everything's not perfect. And here's the thing, you can't be perfect at something you've never done. That's not a thing. Mm-hmm. So if you're not moving because you're looking for perfection, like what? Like you got to keep doing it in order to get perfect. So at the bare minimum, you need to create an email list of people who would be interested in the content that you have to give. So if you're in a service industry, let's say you want to help small business or you want to help medium-sized business, what is the content or what are the major problems that someone in a medium-sized business of whatever industry you're picking are having issues with? Solve that and create it in something that audience can download, or training or something where you can get their information and continue to deliver value. That is important. You're just not going to make content for the sake of making it. It has to be value. Like show based on your expertise, you know what you're doing so that people can see that so they want to work with you. That's all.
Okay, awesome. So you mentioned just some of the tools that individuals most likely will need when they're starting out. But let's say an individual they're not an entrepreneur yet, but they're, right now, many people are working from home. And maybe their company is like, hey, we need you to start showing up in person because vaccines are on the market.
Yes.
What about that segment of individuals who are just sort of reluctant but want to jump into entrepreneurship?
Okay, so in the service industry, this is actually easier than what people think. So if you already have a job, someone's actually paying you to do something, and most likely you're doing it well. So I think ultimately you have to sit down and have a conversation with yourself. Like if I were to do consulting, which is a very easy transition from working for a corporation in the service field. Most likely you probably already have clients or people that you're working with that really like you. And they may even only be working with the company because you're there. So depending on what your contract is, your employment contract that you signed to be there, depends on how you might want to approach some people. Like we in DC, we did this kind of all the time. Like you would basically say, I'm interested in going out on my own. Would you be interested in coming aboard? That type of thing. So just start to plant the seeds now. If there's any certifications or education you need to get before you jump out there independently, start to work on that now. It really depends on your industry. So as we go into Q&A, if you guys can tell me specifically what industry you're in, and then we can kind of problem solve and talk that out. But generally, just whatever you're doing right now, just push it over to consulting. Now, if it's something like I know some folks are like in the medical field or something like that, so it's not easy to make that transition. But what you can do is you can start to create content in those industries, in various publications that already have your audience are looking for content, and you can get paid. And Margo, you're a freelance writer. You can get paid through those opportunities for those type of trainings, get paid as speakers and that type of thing. So it depends on your industry, but most likely, if you've been in this game for a minute, you know a lot, and consulting is the easiest jump to make from that. And so I would say if we had to go with software, we would do email marketing software, and then a scheduling software is probably the basic two that you would need.
Is there any other sort of skill sets or tools that you can recommend if someone really wants to, strike out on their own as a consultant? I know you mentioned those two, scheduling and then email marketing.
In the description, I forgot about that. Thank you. In the description, I put a link to send you the digital Nomad tool, and it's a series of softwares you can use. A lot of it's just going to depend on what you're trying to do. Like if you're trying to sell ebooks, you're going to use one software. If you're trying to do online courses, you're going to do another software. So in the description below, I put a link. Just put your email address and your address, and it'll send you the digital Nomad toolkit. It's going to be a series of softwares. And then what I can commit to you guys is this, well, at least until I go home to see my family. So I'm going to try and go live often, and we can just hash out what your, entrepreneur plan is here live. So when you get the download, I'll do a live specifically on if this is what your business is, this is a software that'll probably be the best bet for you. And hopefully that'll be helpful.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned that you'll be doing some more workshops through the summer.
Not the whole summer, just this month.
Just this month. Okay, sorry, I'm already giving you homework.
No, I got to go home and see the family. I got to go to the States and see my family. So I'm not going to be working during that time.
Okay, awesome. Talk a little bit about, there's this fear of failure that many entrepreneurs grapple with. How do you, what sort of encouragement would you give to those, tuning in to just help them sort of recalibrate, like, okay, you're stepping into this journey, but it's obviously not going to be perfect. What are some recommendations that you could give to them so that even if they fail, they can kind of bounce, they can bounce back?
I feel like it's a hard move because fear is a real thing, right? And I think it depends on what you fear. Like if you fear of being regular, then you're going to have to, you're going to have to make some moves. If you fear the fear of failure, I don't know how people fail something they never tried. Like, you know what I'm saying? When I talk to people and they're like, oh, I'm just scared. And I'm like, well, what are you scared about? Pushing the button? Or like, I don't know. Sometimes people got to lose everything to get the jump-ins. But this is what I would tell you. When you keep walking into fear, like your goals get bigger. They have no option but to do that. You know what I mean? Like they have to get bigger in order for you to accomplish it. Every time you accomplish something, you're going to want something bigger. And so that just gives you an ability to have an amazing life, because if you just stay stuck on, if after losing everything, I just stayed there and like could never get out my bed ever, like how lame my life would have been. You know what I mean? So it's like at some point you got to have a larger desire to have a better life than you are worried about fear. And you hear that, I don't know who said this before, but it's basically like if you worry about something that hasn't happened yet, you end up worrying about it twice. And usually when we're worried about something, like it didn't even happen, like we made it up, and we make it up to a level of like Dungeons and Dragons level. Like, you know what I mean? Like it is the world came to like, and that's not even what happened. Like you might have like, I don't know, stubbed your toe and you got it, and you kept it moving. You know what I mean? Like it's usually just not that serious, but that is just what, our mind does. And you just got to move with it. Just hang around a bunch of high motivated people, and then you have no choice but to boss up, because everybody out here is doing it, and you're just going to look ridiculous just sitting there being regular. So I don't know. That probably didn't answer your question at all.
I mean, no, I think it did. Is there anything else that you want to share with us about your journey before we get into the Q&A?
I don't think so. I think that's all I can provide in regards to the journey. I think the thing is that you're just going to keep learning. You know what I'm saying? And I think for those who haven't made the jump yet, they think they can out-research the experience, and you can't. And this is in anything. So some people will not make the move because they want to research the hell. Like even when it comes to moving abroad, people will ask me the most random questions. And I'm like, girl, sir, if you don't just get your ass out here and figure it out, like, you can't research your way out of stuff. Experience is always going to trump. Just like if someone gave you a book on how to drive, it is nothing like driving. At all. It's nothing. No book anyone can ever write is ever going to be like driving. And that is life. No one is going to be able to give you everything you need in order for you to have the experience. You just got to do it. And the more you do it, the the easier doing new stuff is, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's take some quick Q&A.
Yes.
All right, guys.
Let's
I
get to
hope
the
this was
questions.
helpful. Again, if you're just now joining us, welcome. And if you can put a cue by your question so I know it's a question versus people just communicate in the audience. I also have some questions that people emailed to me. So actually, let me talk to the people. Again, if you I'm gonna try. See, I'm saying this out loud, so I'm a little scared to do this, but I'm gonna attempt to go live for the next several days so that we can have conversations that we need to have in regards to how to get this digital nomad life out, if that's what you want. It's a lot to process. I want to help in those areas where I can, and I'm gonna try to commit to do that before I take the summer to spend time with family. So around this time-ish, which is about 3:25 Lisbon time, I'll try to pop on here, say something based on the questions you ask me. If you ask me a question that I can't fully answer now, and it may need like a full 15 minutes, and I'll try to do a live on that so everyone can get fully educated. If you're interested in the Digital Nomad Toolkit, which is a series of softwares that I recommend, there's a link in the description. You can find that. Okay, so the emails that I was emailed, how do you navigate the issues? Wait, however you come to income and store may not be consistent. Okay, so this was Cassie. Cassie, thanks for responding back to me. So basically, she was talking about drop shipping business that she's interested in looking at in regards to a digital nomad life. I'm in the early stages of creating a store with the intention of creating a lifestyle freedom to be able to live and travel internationally. I'm nervous, however, that the income from the store might not always be consistent, and it may even stop. How do you navigate this issue? Good question. So I guess the first thing, Cassie, I would ask, why are you starting a drop shipping company? Now, here's the thing. We are on the platform, YouTube, that is always pushing all these variety of ways to make money online, right? And so I guess my question is, if you're doing drop shipping because you are passionate about it, like you're really into it, that's one thing. And anything you decide to do is going to be some work. You're going to have some ups and downs. I have a online store. I shut it down when COVID happened because a lot of my stuff came from China and I didn't know what was going on there. So was it lucrative? Absolutely. Did it take work? Yes. So you're going to have somebody for customer service. If there's any shipping issues, if there's COVID, that just stopped the whole situation down. So there are things you are going to have to consider with drop shipping. And I know that everything online wants to make it seem like it's this magic pill. It is lucrative, but like any form of income that you try to incorporate, there is going to be some upfront work on that. So how do you navigate through that? It really depends on what else you have going on. How much time do you have to develop it, particularly at the front end? I think I probably did my store or created it in over a weekend when I was visiting my mom, but I'm also a little bit more tech than the average person. So it was easy for me to do it myself. But it was helpful. I did have to hire an assistant to kind of manage that because that really wasn't what my main interest was. And ultimately, you need an audience. Like I said earlier, regardless of what you want to do, if you want to sell ebooks, consulting, whatever you want to do, you're still going to need to develop the audience. So again, if you're talking about a store, content that you would create potentially for that, or maybe some models wearing the clothes so that people know how it fits on real bodies, and doing a variety of things like that. So ultimately, you still got to market despite what direction you want to go with on your journey. So that's for Cassie. And Richard was saying, like Margo was talking earlier, he's working for a US company, and he was saying that initially the company was like, we're going to work remote forever. And then the US was like, COVID who? And they were like, all right, come back to work. So Richard is looking for some other opportunities, and I understand that. And so again, as we spoke earlier, I don't know what industry you're in, Richard, but I would say to start considering some consulting options, whether you want to move full time into consulting or you just want to create some side money or some money to kind of allow you to be a little bit more free. I would look into consulting. But again, I don't know your industry, Richard. So you're on my list. So if you could just reply back to me, then I'll try to help you there. And so I'm thinking about starting. Okay, so I won't necessarily need work. I'll be retired. But okay, so the question is, how can a person, oh, this is from Alana. How can a person work abroad as a freelancer so that the company does not incur a tax liability? Now, many of you know I don't talk taxes because I am not a tax professional, just the way I would not talk any law because I'm not a lawyer and I ain't trying to get in trouble. So what I will say, the question is a little ambiguous to me because when you say the company, so that the company doesn't incur tax liability, I'm not sure if you're referring to the company that is employing you or if you're saying you as the individual company, how you avoid tax liability. I'm not clear on that. But one thing I kind of will say, but again, this is not tax advice. Okay. If you are freelancing for someone, most likely you're a 1099, which means you're a contractor. If you're saying freelancer, but you're a W-2, you're an employee. So the way they do that is going to be completely different whether you're a contractor. So I'm not sure which one you are, but if you want to work with more US companies and being a 1099 contractor is how you anticipate doing it, I would encourage you, A, to talk to a tax professional and see if it makes more sense for you to incorporate your business in the US. And so that those companies, of course, will pay your US company and you are an employee or CEO or however your tax professional advises that you are of that company. I hope that makes sense. What, Margo, you're a freelancer and you're in Lisbon with me. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm also not a lawyer, but
Or tax professional. Those
or a
disclaimers.
tax professional. Yes, thank you. I would agree with Cinnamon. Like, you definitely want to talk to those professionals so that they can really direct you in the best way possible. So.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm going into the questions into the chat box. Guys, I will be here. I'm not sure how much time I'll have, Margo, but I'll be here as long as there are questions. And we are starting off. If you're coming in, if you can put a Q by your question, just so I know it's a question versus you communicating with someone else in the chat, that'll be super helpful. Hey there, Richard. Okay, good morning, everyone. Okay. Thank you, Sandra. Okay, okay. All right. Wait, you guys don't have no questions? Okay, let's see. All right. When you became Google certified, did this help with the SEO for any of your online businesses or your YouTube channel? Absolutely. Of course, I know how to do it, so it does help. And more importantly, it helps with my clients. Because what I found is just a lot of people just say they know how to do digital marketing. They don't know how to do it. And even if you just stay in the Google has so many different products that you can get certified for that you could just say you specialize in that. They have everything from Google ads, you can do video, you could do just a variety of different things. And there's a certification for all of those sections. So if you just want to stay in that lane and even create content, if you're trying to market yourself specifically in that lane, it's a lot easier because you're not saying you're this large form of digital marketing. Digital marketing is so large. It can include everything from email marketing to funnels, so many things that if you get super specific when you're trying to market, it will definitely help. But to answer your question, absolutely did help. Okay, moving from perfection mindset. Yes. Okay, what we got here? Can you recommend a simple email marketing software? I'm kind of tech challenged and I can complicate. Okay. All right. So if you're tech challenged, the one that's the best, I'm not going to recommend. I think if you're a tech challenge, I would say MailChimp is probably, and then ConvertKit. ConvertKit is pretty user friendly. I use the email automation software. I use ActiveCampaign, but if you don't know what you're doing, you won't want to stay in that lane. So I will say choose the tech that fits where you are. And don't worry about what someone else is using. Just worry about what works well for you. And then always understand you can always upgrade. Once you get this knocked out, you can always move to the next thing. But if you are just starting and you're like, I don't want to deal with tech and you don't have a large audience, you can start with MailChimp because I haven't checked their pricing in a while, but I feel like they're free for, I don't know, maybe your first 1,000 contacts. where you're more, I may have made that up. I didn't look, so go look, Sandra. It's free for a certain amount of contacts. I think I do know that. But if you want your business to get even more sophisticated as it relates to tech, you are going to have to upgrade your tech. But when you're just starting out, just look at something like ConvertKit or MailChimp. All right, perfect. Okay, what content? Okay. What contents did well among all that you tried? I don't think I understand that question, hun. What contents did you? I don't think I understand that question. Are you asking me what format, like whether I did writing versus video versus, follow me up on that so I can try to answer that for you. Okay, are you on Skillshare? Good question. I am personally not on Skillshare, but Skillshare is a great platform if you need to find an audience. And this is one of the things that's super important. In regards to finding an audience, sometimes you have to borrow an audience from other platforms. So if you make clothes or goods, you might want to start off at Etsy. Or if you sell whatever, or you want to freelance, you might have to start at Upwork. Some things you may just have to start at just so you can get the audience, and then you grab that audience and then pull them in something that you own. I am always going to recommend that you stay on something that you own versus something else, because anything can happen. Not to mention, a lot of those sites don't pay you what you're worth, but it's okay to get paid less if you're getting an audience from it. Then it's all right. But if you are operating in a situation where you may need this to pay the bills, those platforms may not work that well when you're just starting off. So no, I'm not on Skillshare. I don't have any intentions on being on there, but I already have an audience. Like, I do digital marketing, so I already have an audience for digital marketing. So I wouldn't personally, but it is a good place to go to, but just know that your margins may be a little bit low. Okay, wait. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, guys. You know, these softwares be acting funny. Okay, how do you, okay. Sandra, yes, with the questions. How do you stay focused on something you don't really have a passion for? I say wait. I'm about to say don't do it. Can I say that? How do you focus on something you don't really have a passion for? Can you pay somebody to do it? Can somebody else do it? I think, like, when you start to create these networks of people and brilliant people and see what people's skill set are, and see if you can barter some services if you don't feel like doing it. I think I need to know specifically what you mean. If you mean like a whole job that you ain't passionate for, you try to stay focused on, then girl, get another job. But if you're saying like just a task in your business that you just don't feel like doing, if you don't want to pay somebody else to do it, just look and see if you can do some bartering with some other people that may need your skill set. Because Sandra got a bomb voice. For y'all don't know, Sandra does voiceovers. So if you need some voiceovers, definitely look at Sandra. And Sandra's been killing it. Okay, let's see. Do you use any tool to streamline YouTube video editing? Streamline YouTube video editing. I use what do I use? I use and the software I use is in the, like I said, guys, I have a digital Nomad toolkit. Download it. For editing, I have Final Cut Pro. I don't use it. I use ScreenFlow, which is one of the software I included on the list because it's easier. And I'm a baby and I just stick with easy. Okay. Let's see. Okay. All right. What contents did well and what not among all you tried? I still need you to be specific in content for what? I wish I could bring y'all on a camera with me because I don't understand your question, honey. I'm sorry. Did you use any tools to streamline YouTube editing? Oh, I think I already answered that. I'm sorry. My apologies on the software. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Yes. Hey there. How do you pivot? Okay, good question. Let's see. How do you pivot from a business you're no longer passionate about?
Good question.
Okay, if you know what you're already passionate about, then start creating content for what you're passionate about. So let's say you are passionate about the moon. Just start creating content about the moon. Like, why are you passionate? I'm pulling, y'all know this this example is horrible. I know that. I couldn't think of anything else. But let's say you're passionate about, start creating content about the moon. You can do that in writing format. You can do it in video format. I am always going to prefer video over writing. I know people are going to debate with me, but video gives you a level of analytical information that you can't really get with words. So for example, you can tell how long someone's watched a video, and then you can retarget them based on 80% of the people watch this video, so I want them to see this, or I want them to, you can get very at a granular level. You can get more analytical data from video that's a little bit harder to get from the written text. But again, this is going to depend on your industry. But start creating content for what you're passionate about. Okay, this is a better example. I'm so sorry I threw the moon at y'all because I just couldn't think. Let's say you're trying to learn a new software. You know what I'm saying? As you're trying to learn the new software, and you'll find on this platform of YouTube, you'll find various people who are showing people how to do different things in software. When I'm using a software and I don't know how to do something, I go to YouTube. So you can start to create this content for the software you're trying to learn. Again, content is currency, folks, for those of you who are just joining us. So then what ends up happening, because you end up having more content for the software than the actual software company. So most software companies, they do a terrible job of doing customer onboarding and doing enough tutorials so that people can use it to the best of their ability. And they also have really good affiliate programs if you're trying to make some additional money from that. But we'll do that in another training. But I say all that to say, what was my point with that? So you start creating content, your name or your brand is associated with always seeing this software more so than the actual software. Then the software owners typically find that out, because we look at stuff like we Google our company, our brand, and then some other random person is showing up and you're like, oh, well, who this? What that mean? And that's usually how brand deals, you've heard of those. That's usually how brand deals are started, because somebody took the initiative to plant those seeds initially and then go ahead and move in that direction. And next thing you know, the company is contacting you, wanting you to do some brand deals. So if you want to pivot from a business that you are no longer passionate about, start showing that you are passionate, whatever this new thing is, by creating content for it. Oh, Richard, you're in cybersecurity. Yes. Okay. All right. Shoot. I was about to curse. Sorry. Okay, I use MailerLite now. Okay, cool. All right, let's look at this. Okay, traveling. Would you ever consider putting together a course on creating live webinars, training workshops like the one you are currently did? I remember you saying it was a ton of work and it was your first time. I can. If you want me to, I will. If enough people are interested, yeah, I can do that. When you want it. You want it this summer? This summer might be hard, but yeah. So live webinars and training workshops operate. Yeah, you know what? I will do that. If that makes sense, I'll do that, because I feel like there are great ways to make some additional money, and then real quick, but again, all of this is going to, the caveat is that you have to build an audience. So even if you know how to do a live workshop, if you don't have the audience that's going to sign up for the workshop, it's going to almost be a wasted learn. And what I want to give you guys something that you can implement now. If you're telling me you already have the audience and you ready to go, then we could do it. No problems. I'll do that for you. Okay. Should we upload portfolios or projects onto a website as a resume for obtaining clients? If not, what are your suggestions? I'm sorry. Oh, you're so sweet. I didn't answer that. Absolutely. Here's the thing. I think you should create content for everything. I do want you to have some content on a platform that you own, your website, of course. And then if there are certain, let's say you want to do graphic designs for a particular ad agency. A lot of ad agencies may go to certain places to look for talent. So whatever those places are, I'm not an ad agency, I'm pulling out of the sky. That is where you definitely want to have your portfolio, and you want to look and see, based on the different creatives that they had employed before, what their style is, so that when you do put your portfolio, or you look, it is nothing wrong with reaching out to the people. Margo will tell you that. Margo, talk about that. Just pitching yourself. Let me just finish this thought, and then Margo, I want you to speak on this. So of course, have it on your website, but then write down, this is a horrible term, but what we called it was a kill list. And I'm sure it's called something more politically correct than what I'm calling it now. But basically you write down, let's say 4 or 5 companies that you would want to work for in whatever capacity that you have your expertise in. And then you see who they've hired in the past. We've done this for government contracting a lot. We would see who the prime hired before. And so you see what the style is, why they hired the person. And so then when you pitch yourself, you are pitching yourself with content that is relevant to the client. But Margo, spent a little bit of time on pitching, because Margo's freelance and she'd be pitching herself all over the place.
Yeah. So to answer your question, Janelle, it's really important for anyone, if you're saying like, hey, you're a writer, and if I type in your website and I don't see any clips, any examples of your work, then it's really hard to like hire you. So what I would suggest is to, really put all your clips on your website, like Sin says, like a place that you actually own, because people are Googling you, whether you know it or not. And you want to put your best foot forward. And, your resume, your website is pretty much your online resume. So once you have your portfolio up and on your website, then, look up the masthead to see who's the editor-in-chief at these publications, or the deputy editor, and then pitch them, because that's the only way you'll sort of get noticed. And then provide all those clips, provide examples of, you doing feature interviews, or, long form stories, and just really making sure that your pitch is well-rounded.
I think that is, what did they say, that the squeaky wheel gets the oil or something like that? Like, I know sometimes you don't think about pitching yourself, and it may feel icky. It does feel icky to pitch yourself.
It's awkward every time.
But it's important. Like one of my friends, James, he does a lot of union work in LA, but he lives in DC. And every time he does a spot, industrial or commercial, he sends an email to all the casting companies to let them know what he just accomplished. And what that does, that immediately puts him in the front of their mind. So if people ask you to stop, just stop. But you got to be your biggest advocate. So just definitely look into pitching yourself, especially if you're doing brand deals. And brand deals, I mean, a lot of times I'm pitching myself, but I've already had proof of the work that I want to do for them before I do that. So I hope that answers the question a little bit. What topics did well and not well among all the content you tried? I see that you do different types of content, vlog, equipment review. Okay. Now I understand your question. So what I do personally is going to be different than what you do. You are going to have to figure out who you want your audience to be, and then push in that direction. So for example, for a lot of the things, like you said, I will do an equipment review and I will do a vlog or that type of thing. My channel is a bit like, some of the stuff is just stuff I'm going to do and I'm going to share. Some of it is that I may want a brand deal in the future. So I want to show what I have done. You know what I mean? So my strategy for doing content revolves around SEO. So because I'm just not one, like a monolith, there's a variety of things. Even at the top, I'm into business, travel, and food. You know what I mean? And so some of the content that I personally decide to put out there is going to be based on the things that I like, and the brands that I like, and the things that help me achieve that particular goal. But what your content will be for what you do specifically is going to revolve around the message that you're trying to convey, if that makes sense. So it's not that one particular type of content does better than the other. All of them fulfill the goal that I set for the strategy that I have. Did that even make sense? Was that ambiguous as hell? Okay, hold on. Can I think about that for a minute, or can you give me a follow-up question so I could be better with that? Because I when it came out my mouth, that's not how it sounded in my head. Okay, now, did you get all your audience organically? Yes. Did you use pay ads? Absolutely not. In YouTube, well, yeah, in YouTube, I don't really feel like paid ads are necessarily. I know the people are gonna be debating with me. Um, so let's have this conversation about the platform in which you decide to grow your business on. So there are things that are considered an intranet, in my opinion, and then an internet. So YouTube is considered an internet, meaning anyone can access the platform whether they log in or not. If you Google something, a YouTube video can pop up. No one had to log in. And so they really concentrate on SEO. Your Facebooks and your Instagrams are more like an intranet. Like you have to log in order to get anything on these platforms. Your Pinterest, your YouTubes, your Quoras, those are going to be internet. Now, I typically recommend clients and people to market or create content for internet-based stuff because it's easier to get people to come to you. So because of various SEO things that I had done with my channel, it got a bunch of strangers to come to me. Pulling that off on Instagram or Facebook is a little bit more challenging. So the reach I have on Instagram came majority from YouTube. So you can use one platform to filter eyes to another platform if that's what you want to do. Ultimately, I would not recommend paid ads for YouTube, particularly when you're just starting. What I would recommend you focus on is more SEO and deciding what your niche is going to be. YouTube's algorithm will, people you're not even subscribed to. If YouTube see that you watched it and you engage with it, they're going to shove that video in your face regardless. They didn't even have an ad in order to put that in front of you. But what you have to understand when you're doing marketing on your intranet-based soft platforms, they can stop putting your image or your content to your audience. Mm-hmm. And many of you, Facebook is famous for that. If you have a business page, Facebook is famous for not showing your content to people unless you pay for it. But because they own Instagram now, you probably seen a lot of regular people just doing sponsored posts on their personal profile, which sadly is, I wouldn't recommend that. Because what somebody comes to your page, and let's say they start following you, that doesn't turn into money, but you paid money to get them there. And so there's no conversion. If you're going to do paid ads, I would recommend that you're doing paid ads to something you'll get paid for so that it will end up balancing out your advertising costs. I hope that makes sense. Did that make sense, or did I morph into something
that
again?
Makes sense.
All right. Okay. So, let's see what we have here. Thank you, Sandra, for your cue. I'm passionate about creating VOs, but not coaching. What are your motivation for vlogging your Portugal journey? What was the paradigm shift catalyst? Ooh, okay. I'm passionate about creating VOs, but not coaching. Okay. So if you just want to do VOs, honey, you need to throw some more content out there with your beautiful voice. Lovely. What was your motivation for vlogging about Portugal? Honestly, my motivation, I joke about this, but I'm dead serious, is that one, I just didn't feel like there were videos out there. I go to YouTube whenever I want to learn anything. And I didn't see anything out there that could help me figure out this resident process. And I just wanted to be like 80 years old and look back at a video and be like, you did that. You know what I mean? That was my major motivation. I wanted to be able, and even when I look back now at stuff like when I first came and was like super scared and like, it's kind of cool. And when you say, what is the paradigm shift or the catalyst? I don't think I understand that part of the question. I'm sorry. So hit me back up if you are. Okay, let's see. It's so hard to find something remote in the nursing area, even when a case manager 100% online, you have to live in the US. So frustrating. I get that, Laura. What I would encourage you to do is you have so much information as a nurse that regular people don't know nothing about. We ain't go to school for that. We don't know what we're doing. We going to these doctors. We have no idea. So you can literally start creating content to help people be better patients. If you are, I'm not sure what kind of nurse you are, but you can start creating the content and start educating your audience. You know what I mean? And then the opportunities that can come for that are kind of endless. You know what I mean? But you have to figure out how you want to convey information to people who would need it. You're a nurse, for Christ's sakes. Like, you know, things that whatever particular nurse that you're in, we don't know how to behave as patients. We don't know what we're doing. You can give so much insight. And let's say you were a, I don't know, like a nurse for people who live in an assisted living facility. You can create content on how to choose assisted living facilities. Like, what should you look for? What questions you should ask? People, look, we got a whole population of baby boomers, and we got a population of people who have to start looking for their parents. So again, I don't know what kind of nurse you are, but here's what I don't want anyone listening to the sound of my voice to think. Just because you were at a job that does not allow remote doesn't mean that there's a whole surplus of people who need the information that you went to school for. So you just have to find a format to deliver that. But it's so much information that you have in your head that we don't know what we're doing. Like, if you can give us that information, it would be super dope. So most of the stuff I'm going to put you guys onto is going to be online based. And that's going to start with content. I know I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but content is going to be the most important currency thing that you do for your business, whether you're freelancing, whether you are consulting, creating a service business, a product business. You just got to figure out who your audience first is so that you can help online world know how to send people to you. I know as business owners, we try to say everybody's our customers, and that's just not true. And that is super hard if you're trying to do SEO, because you don't start getting traffic until Google or the search engines understand what your content is about. So even for the example of my channel keep talking about Portugal. So at some point, YouTube was like, oh, I think her channel about Portugal. So if someone's searching for that, I'm going to pop up. So you just have to do that with your content as well. So that's why you have to be super specific. If I just said moving abroad, it would have been harder for people to find me. Majority of the people who found me were interested in Portugal. So, you know, of course I do some moving abroad, I do some product, I do a whole bunch of random things, but there's going to be, this is why content is so important. And the more you have, the more you can increase your income, because I want you to really think of content as a seed. You plant it and it grows. If you don't ever plant the thing, how do people gonna know about you? They ain't gonna know about you at all. Okay. All right, I see we had some conversation with each other. So let me look for the Q so I know where the questions are. Again, if you were just now joining us, if you can put a Q by your question so I know that you have a question you want me to ask versus just chatting with the people. Okay, we're asking the same question. Okay, I hope I answered the question that you guys were. Oh, look at yes, Sandra doing audiobooks. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. Let's see. This is a good one. Does it make sense to rebrand an old brand? For example, the name I'm trying for is an old brand, or start something new with a new vision. Not sure what to do with old emails, list subscribers. Okay. Very, very good question. Get rid of them. Sorry. That's probably not what you want to hear. Honestly, because if you haven't engaged with your list, like you just let them be stagnant and you ain't do nothing with it, someone might not even remember who you are, and you don't want to start getting caught up in spam and all that other stuff because you lost the relationship. So far as rebranding and changing the name, I don't feel like that's that necessary, particularly if a whole bunch of people didn't know about it in the first place. So just stick with what you have already done. Just focus on getting more eyes on your content. But if you are going to have an email list, you need to really, and this is for everyone. I know I told you that the email list is important, but you also have to plan once you get them on the email list. Like, you don't want to just have them on the email list and let it go dormant. You have to decide, okay, how am I creating value for these people? Am I going to produce content for the next 10 days? Am I going to do a workshop for them, a free workshop for them. Like, create the content, and then the content goes to your email list, and of course any of your other platforms. You kind of got to balance out your marketing, not just one way. You want people to kind of see you in a variety of different places. When you think of your larger brands, they don't just market on one network. You know what I mean? Like, they're everywhere. And that's what you want to do with your business. But the way to do that is if you have content. Really, the only cost-effective way to market your business is with content, guys. Like, it's with content. If you want to put the content on YouTube, if you want to put it on Instagram, if you want to put it on, whatever you're going to need the content. Once you get the content, then you can decide where you want to put it. But I would just say, just batch a whole bunch of content right now. Because if you just wait till you feel like it's not going to happen, or life is going to happen. And then the momentum that you got with the search engines and everything like that can easily die, because now you went dormant and you didn't have enough content to kind of put you over the thing. Sorry, y'all. I'm usually more articulate and just can't pull it together. I apologize. Oh, you're welcome, honey. Okay, are those chopping boards behind you, Margo?
They are.
That's hilarious. Okay. Let's see. Did you have to get any clearance to do government contracts? Yes. I made a couple videos answering iPhone cases. Let's see. Richard, what you saying? I made a couple of videos reviewing iPhone cases that got hundreds of views. See? Look at you. Richard out there doing it. That's what I'm telling y'all. Okay. So we don't have any more questions? That is nice. All right. So I vowed to stay here as long as y'all wanted me to. And we are right at an hour. And so I feel like we're good. Guys, I hope this was helpful. I am going to attempt to do some more content for at least the next couple days. Once it's time for me to see my family and bond with them, I'll have to stop. But if you have any specific questions, if you're watching this in the replay, don't forget to download the digital toolkit. And we'll talk about software and a bunch of other stuff. I'm probably going to go live for the next couple days around the same time. You're so welcome, Laura. Hey, Laura. Wait. Laura, did we meet? Is this Laura from Portugal?
Okay. Yeah, I think it is. Thanks for joining the conversation.
Yeah. I will be doing some lives probably around the same time. I'm also going to go live on Instagram just real quick to recap some of the stuff we talked here. And hopefully I can get to everybody. But I think once I go be with my family, I'm gonna shut it down for a couple months. So if you have any questions, yes, that is Laura. That's dope. So if you guys have any questions and you really, want to know how things would matter specifically to your business, I need to know what your business is so that I can kind of help with that. And it helps if we're having a conversation about it, because some of the things I can't answer in a comment. It's just entirely too difficult. It's easier for me to kind of talk to you about it. So let's try it. I haven't put up the thumbnail for tomorrow, but I'll try to come live tomorrow as well. And for those of you who download the toolkit, I'll go over the various software and what you should use based on what you're trying to do. Does that make sense? So maybe we'll spend some time tomorrow doing that, but I'll be sure to do that by the end of the night. I'll figure it out. So, all right, guys, it's been real. I really appreciate you guys for hanging on. I hope this was helpful. And again, I'll be sending you some emails. If you download the toolkit, you'll get some emails from me in regards to this whole process. And just reply back if you have your personal questions, and I will try to answer that for you. Thank you, Margo, for doing this with me.
Thank you so much. This was really awesome. You did great.
Thank you, hon. All right. Until next time, guys. It was a pleasure.